Carrie Contey. I'm so glad you're joining us for this month's conversation. This is such fun to sit and look at you and talk to you. So this month is the month of May, and the whole theme at Sparkle is superheroes. And Carrie Contey is one of my superheroes. And so I want to talk to you and ask you some very direct questions about your superpowers and your thoughts about helping others find theirs. Okay. But first, can I contextualize?
Yes, please.
Okay. You ready?
First of all, I have to say, I'm so happy to be here. I love you. I love Sparkle Stories. And this is just a topic near and dear to my heart. So let's dive in.
Awesome. Great. Okay, here we go. So I personally believe that all of us have superpowers that are innate to us. Not one of us doesn't have them. And another word for superpowers could be gifts, right? Either way, I think they're meant to be shared. I think the well-being of the planet is really contingent on us finding those and bringing those forward, right? And I think too, that when we're engaging them, it's easier to be joyful. Like we have an easier access to joy. Do you agree with me? And do you have any thoughts on that?
I 100% agree, because what I believe is that our superpowers are really that place in us, that state of alignment, that when we're in our groove, when we're in our most isness, there's nothing but good that comes from that. Like that is how it sort of spills out and over. And so the idea of parents finding their superpowers and owning their own ways of knowing themselves, and then their children both being, asked what theirs are, and also the modeling that a parent could do, that just feels like the ripple from that is profound.
Totally. Okay. So you are of all my friends, you're the one that it feels like you're living in closest alignment to your superpowers. So how would you define yours? So let's give an example. What are your superpowers?
Yeah. I think honestly, I think about this a lot. And I think my main superpower is that I have cultivated my ability to know and trust myself, that I really operate from a place of knowing what's true for me and feeling like very clear and steady. And it doesn't mean I don't question things or I don't get wobbly, but I have tools that I've really built in getting back to myself and not only doing that, but then letting myself be heard. And that's my superpower, knowing and trusting myself.
And I would add teaching that, conveying that in a way that others can follow too, because I've learned so much from you that way. Okay, awesome. Okay. So now I want us to imagine a world in which at least half of us are in touch with and engaging our superpowers on a daily basis. I think that would be extraordinary. I mean, I think that would transform the world. So what are your best recommendations around discovering and accessing that, which I'm calling superpowers for both kids and adults? And I'm interested in your simplest one, and I'm interested in your most in-depth.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the simplest one is learning to pause.
Okay.
Just really learning. And this is a skill that has to be practiced, but anybody could do it, because when we pause, there's a way that we bring ourselves back to this moment, and then we have more access to something deeper. So that's my quickie. And then the deeper is to be on what do I want to call it? On a lifelong path of self-awareness. And I talk a lot about this in my work, and it's all about really doing work that first pausing. So that's the first step. And then what I call checking in, like really starting to learn how this vessel, this body, brain, heart, soul system works, because we're all unique. And there's a lot of noise out there that's asking us to pay attention over here and pay attention over there. And what I love instructing people to do and taking a stand for is that inner knowing, and that operating from a place of like self discovery and inquiry and constantly, like, I do a lot of writing. And the other thing that I think is a really fun way to access superpowers is appreciating. Because when you get into a practice of appreciating, whether it's 10 a day or 50 a day or 1 a day, what you're doing is you're giving attention to the things that matter. Because what we want to appreciate are, when we're really in a state of appreciation, we're noticing the externals and then ideally the internals of what's important, what we care about, what we want to give energy to. And so if you really want to excavate your gifts, your superpowers, that which gives you meaning, that which gives you that sense of like, here I am, look at me living. I believe that if you really want to do that, you can do that through making a practice of stopping and looking around and saying, just thank you for this and that and this. We were saying earlier, like we both source off of nature.
Yes.
And so every day, nature, whether it's a hike or being at the ocean or whatever it is on my list. And so I am so clear that is meaningful to me. And so being able to almost like create a loop of like, this is meaningful, give it energy. This is meaningful, give it energy. This is meaningful, give it energy. And then it's like all of a sudden, that's what I'm living.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I want to go a little bit deeper with the pause and noticing. I know that we can notice what it is that draws us from the outside, what it is that moves us from the outside. What is it? Can you say more about the noticing that happens when around, like, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question because this has just come to me, like around how we want to show up ourselves, like around what either comes easily or natural for us that might then be defined as that superpower. Ooh, in other words, the inner impulse, like, and even maybe give an example of for you of what that feels like versus sort of the outer noticing.
That's a great question. Okay.
And can I say something from my end? I just thought of an example. So what I notice in myself, like one of my superpowers is seeing and feeling into and understanding people. And I notice that I do what you talk about, where I will sort of naturally drop in. And then when I I can feel into my body the resonance with the other person. I can often sometimes feel what they're feeling. And there's a certain kind of hum, a certain kind of easy, when I know that I've dropped in and it's not really like psychic reading, but it's more just sensing into their person. Mm-hmm. And it feels really good. And what the other person experiences on the other end is a sense of safety is what I find. Right. And so it's like this beautiful reciprocity, but in my system, it feels like I go, boop, I pop in and go, and it means I'm present and I'm sensing that,
Oh, I love that.
That's my example.
Yeah. And really that just sparked what mine is, which is a little bit different, but similar, which is like, like when I'm like in my zone and I'm like in a place where I love life, or I'm with somebody that I really care about. It's that delicious, but it's like a deep, like a sink. That's that. The more I pay attention to that, the more it allows me to trust when it's not that.
Yes. Right. And so then on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, you trust that. Yes. And then you step away from what's not that.
Yes.
That is gorgeous. Yes. That is gorgeous. That is gorgeous.
Okay. Yeah, that's really true. And then, experimenting, like, of course, I'm going to try on different things, but the deeper sense of like my inner compass, like my inner sense of like, and like trusting that. Like, I feel like a lot of times, especially with children, we push them to not really be listening to that. And so to learn how to do it in ourselves and then really like, what sparks that person? What lights them up? Because it might be totally different than anything we've ever seen in any other human. But when there's that real sense of like aliveness, alertness, like openness, that to me is like tapping into that knowing.
Yes. And as a parent, do you recommend that parents both acknowledge that in the child when they see it? Like, tell me how best recommendations in this situation for how to support the child, what language to use with the child,
Yeah, I think mirroring, like a good, just empathetic reflecting of like an actual, like, wow, you lit up when we did that. Or, oh, wow. Like, like I tell this story a lot of when I was 7, I was always into babies and children. Like that was my thing. And when I was 7, I got to hold a newborn, and this whole like system got ignited inside of me that was like this, yes, like this is your thing. And so I'm really present to that. And I can even imagine what it was like in that moment for 40 plus years ago when I did hold that little person, and the ignition that I got. And then having the mom of that child and my own mom and other people aware of like, wow, you really like being around babies and children. And about the acknowledgement of that was really like, it brought something, like it added to the passion that I was already feeling. And I don't sense that I wouldn't have gone in that direction and do what I do if I hadn't gotten that reflection. But wow, am I lucky that I got it. And so whether it's an instrument or a sport or art or, even technology, like that's the other piece, is that they might spark to things that you don't let go wild into, but the acknowledge, wow, you really enjoyed playing that game, didn't you? Like it's okay to do, because whatever somebody is hooking to, if you can give it a little energy that adds, that's a beautiful gift.
Yes. 100%. And then language that you use when talking to a child. I mean, I'm saying, a vibration hum, you're saying yum feelings.
Yeah.
Like, how do you teach them to notice that in themselves? Outside of the modeling, I'm with you. I'm in alignment that the children watch what we do over what we say.
Mostly just doing it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You speak the language. So so speaking the language of your superpower, but maybe even superpowers, gifts, passions in general. And then the phrase like, wow, how does that feel in your body? Like asking that question, and they might go fine or good or whatever, but having somebody ask like, what's going on in there? And not, I love that shift from, I'm so proud of you to, wow, you must feel really proud right now of yourself.
Oh, nice.
Like that little micro shift where it's not looking for the validation from outside. It's actually wiring them to consider it from the inside.
Yes. Beautiful. Yes. I'm all over intrinsic motivation too.
Right.
I watch it in the moments with my kids now that they're almost adults.
Yeah.
Watching, and I was not a perfect parent by any means, but because of the way I parent, they do have a fair amount of that. And watching how that plays out in an 18 and a 21-year-old, it's just like, wow. It's powerful. It's hugely powerful. Okay. So my last question is, how did you come to discover your own superpowers? And I know you just told us the story about holding that baby as a 7-year-old, but can you tell us a bit about your journey there? Because again, this is modeling, right? And even if you want to tell us a couple segments of it, because it's an evolution and we're always discovering, right? So,
yeah. And I love the question, because I'm really aware that my innate superpower of knowing and trusting myself, it wasn't always available to me. So I remember, this is interesting. I remember being in, graduate school, and I had spent 6 years working on a degree, my PhD, and then writing this giant paper. And I remember turning it in and thinking, oh, there's going to be so many changes. They're going to hate it. It's, whatever. I just need to get it to them and they can tell me what they need. And then my advisors sent a note back and said, it's great. There's a few minor changes. And I allowed and then in that moment, I felt elated. I felt really good, but I caught myself, because in that moment, what I realized was I was letting them tell me my value of this thing that I had done on my own that was huge, instead of knowing it from the inside that I had done it and that I could trust that it was good. Like I didn't know that. And I really think that was like a pivotal moment in my life of deciding like, oh no, I have to now cultivate this sense of like, I know what I need. I can trust myself. I can appreciate when I'm doing good work. I can change gears when something feels off. I can be
Yes.
really boundaried. Like, and that was now almost 20 years ago. So since
Yes.
then, I've been on this journey of like, honestly, almost daily checking in. I write, I do a lot of like, where am I in my brain state? Where am I in my emotions? What's my body doing? Like, I want to understand how this system works so that when I'm out there maneuvering through life and interacting with people and offering the work that I do, it's coming from a place of clarity. And it's like, I'm not having to think about it. I'm doing the tuning to open up so that what can come through is in alignment with how I want to be, which is joyful and in awe and appreciative and like tapped into something way beyond what this reality is, like a real deep love of this experience of being alive.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And is there anything else you want to say as we close? Is there anything else you want to add from your either of your skill base or that's coming to you in this conversation? And then I want you to really close with where people can find you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the last is just be on the journey of self-exploration. Like, I think that's what we're saying here. I think that it's really about deciding like, you're here, you're a miracle. Like every single one of us, it's astoundingly like miraculous that we are here and you're here to share you. So getting to know you and what you love, and the visual that I love is like that we're all these mosaics and we have all these facets and tiles and these things about us that are who we are. And so being curious and like loving ourselves and having compassion for those tender places, to me, like if that's like all you spend your time on, a little bit a day of just going, ooh, hi, here I am. Like, look at me, I'm doing life. Not only is that going to just like bring more of you forward, but you're going to be modeling something for your people that is so valuable that it's like, you loving them is wonderful, but you loving you is actually what's going to teach them to love themselves.
Yes.
And like, that's where it's at.
Yes. Can I get an amen on that one?
Let's go.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I always get so lit up when I talk to you. Truly.
Me too, it's so fun.
Okay. So now where can people find you and what are you up to right now?
I have a website, carriecontey.com, and I have beautiful courses if you're looking for more and you want to work with me and learn with me. I have a podcast called Not Parenting, KNOT Parenting. So that's a lot of fun, and that'll give you a big dose of what I'm all about. It's really lays out my philosophy and a lot of the tools that I work with. And just send me an email because I love hearing from people. hello@carriecontey.com.
Awesome. Thank you, friend.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
It's been great.